This episode is proudly supported by OpenTable.
Nearly 1/3 of diners are booking same day. So they're making those decisions on the spot. And 10% are making their bookings within just a few hours. And so it's why it's so important to have booking software like OpenTable, which allows your diners to discover you. And so when restaurants are on platforms like OpenTable, they're much more likely to be discovered. We help diners to connect to restaurants. Ultimately, having technology, using technology, helps you to reattach to those diners.
Experience the power of OpenTable. For an exclusive offer, visit restaurant.opentable.com.au/DITW.
We're doing something that's important, and it's not to belittle what others do. It's just a matter of realistically, we need to eat every day. That's the reality of things, and I suppose being part of that system is pretty cool. It's sort of, we really do value that.
This is The Producers. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Andrew and Yeo run a small lamb operation on 100 acres in Bulahdelah on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. It's a small farm dedicated to the locals where Andrew runs 160 Australian white sheep to bring fresh, pasture-raised lamb to the local area.
We're currently farming a little coastally based town in the mid-north coast of New South Wales called Bulahdelah. And it's sort of not traditional farming country, and it's certainly not traditional sheep country, that's for sure. I think, it was tried many, many years ago and didn't go terribly well. But we're sort of trying the challenge of being here and seeing if we can do something a bit different with it. We've sort of got, such close proximity to a variety of different markets and different sort of personalities, and just things to do. And I suppose it's sort of localised food economy. This is where we live where our market is.
Andrew is a multi-generational farmer, but farming on the coast is something new and delivers a whole raft of challenges.
Milking the cows and having the veggie garden and having your own sort of sheep to process and eat was just sort of a perfectly normal thing to us as kids out west growing up. That connection to what you're sort of growing and that sort of literally going and pulling it out of the garden and rubbing a bit of dirt off the carrot and eating it sort of thing. I think that was sort of pretty cool thing to think of as normal. We're a multi-generational farm of sheep, cattle, cropping operation out near Dubbo, New South Wales, a little town called Mendoran. And, through family succession planning, we decided to sort of downscale and, parents retire and but still an active involvement in things. So sort of looked at the idea of coming to sort of more coastal side of things where it rains and, make our life easier in farming, we so thought, lesson learnt as it turns out. But it was, the theory was there, given that moisture was our limiting factor out west. We thought we'll sort of beat that, and it found out it's actually throws its own challenges.
Traditionally a wool operation, Andrew experienced many challenges and saw the opportunity to transition into farming for lamb meat.
I suppose to grow lamb, we took it on from, as I say, coming across from where we were. We were traditionally a wool operation and transitioned probably a bit over 10 years ago or so into the meat side of things, just given the frustrations of the wool game, prices and labour and things like that. So, it sort of became that sort of process of bringing that expertise of animal husbandry in that space across to the coast, and seeing if it was going to be a fit for here, I think. What we use is an Australian white. It's a newly developed composite breed over the last sort of 10 to 20 years, and it's used a lot of embryo transfer technology to really hone down and focus on it being more of a hair type sheep that doesn't require any of the sort of the wool inputs. So that's the sort of the primary difference. We sort of look at the protein being the primary output of it, and without any sort of cost and aggravations of the sideline thing that might necessarily be beneficial, like the secondary rate wool from sort of the composites and things like that. So yeah.
life is a bit different on the coast and has given Andrew and his family a better lifestyle.
Oh, it's a pretty cruisy environment here on the coast. It's, we sort of picked it for the climate, that sort of nice mild, not too humid where we are, and, no such thing as cold. It's thongs and t-shirts pretty much every day of the year around these parts. So, we sort of see those occasional hots, but it's not sort of sustained long heat and dry. It's a different sort of feeling to things, and that sort of drives us to what the environment is for the sheep, I suppose. If we love it, well, there's sort of a good chance they do too. It's sort of pretty cruisy lifestyle, just sort of cruising around here. Pretty chill, that's for sure. As far as for transferring those sort of coastal grasses to meat, it's traditional dairy country. So you can sort of put it into milk, change it into milk with a sort of a more high input sort of thing. But we're trying to sort of have a lower input, more sort of ecologically balanced, find sort of some equilibrium between the different aspects of environmental and production. So finding that sweet spot of things, but being realistic about certain paddocks. They're going to need fair levels of pasture improvement to see them produce some level of productivity, and what sort of supplements and things may be required to sort of balance that out. But primarily always trying to stay focused on the pastures and not sort of take an easy way out and try and sort of go into a feedlot or something like that. Sort of stay focused on our premise and our ethics, what we're trying to do. I think the lesson learned that it's a very different environment. Bringing things across here and thinking we'd sort of just hook in. There's plenty of grass, and they should be able to convert that, no worries. And well, this will be a complete doddle. We've very very rapidly learnt that grass ain't necessarily feed on the coast, and very very poor nutritional value in it, and essentially just water in green bags. That's the green there. So we've sort of learnt that side of things. That's been I suppose not funny, but I suppose it was sort of a real eye opener for us. And then just reconsidering how we design and apply property fencing and things has been sort of a main one. Moving that with very traditional side with my father out west, and long straight fences for kilometres, a lot of pride in that. And our place here is set up around curved fences and things, so it's sort of a bit of an initial paradigm shift in that. Was probably a little amusing for a period there.
When farming lamb, no day is alike, and that's the beauty of working on the land.
I'm definitely not a typical day sort of person. My wife often asks, what are we doing tomorrow? And I'll just simply reply, I don't know, it's not tomorrow yet. But I tend to like the surprise of it. And I think that's sort of life's what we're trying to achieve here. You're trying to make sure you're planning ahead and having things not go wrong. But I think having that regimented plan of life, the freedom that comes with what we've got, is pretty special. We're only sort of 5 k's out of town, but it could be 100. But we're not as isolated as my wife and I were in our childhood sort of thing. You're not early adulthood. You're still a short trip in and away you go. So I think it's just finding that beautiful balance here, and if it looks like the crazy things go on in the world, we can stay pretty isolated from it. We're very fortunate that COVID sort of experience pretty well left us untouched here. It was just a business as usual, poking along and looking after your sheep and doing things. And, we don't understate that, how lucky we are in that.
For Andrew, it's all about contributing, connecting and supplying the local community with quality lamb.
We try and sell off farm as much as we can. That's sort of our aim. We really sort of have a pride of place. What we do is a localised food economy and trying to sort of limit food miles. And the more that we can do that, the better. So centralising around sort of open days and things, then we'll try and supply a bit more to a local shop in town. And that's where we'd like to draw the line. We want to sort of see better market penetration locally rather than constantly trying to throw the net further and further to expand. We're sort of limited by land size, and we want to sort of realistically build our business around that and just have a sustainability and an ethics, I suppose, a story of why we do it and connect that to our local people. Get back to your roots, I suppose. Something that farming's definitely gone the opposite direction. In my sort of old world, it's much the get bigger or get out type of concept, and we've tried to sort of fight that. Get smaller and more direct to customer. So, just opened that, something we didn't think was going to be possible by rethinking it and thinking opposite, brought that into play.
There are many great parts of the lamb, but there is just one that Andrew holds in high regard.
The backstrap for me, being a lamb farmer, a bit spoiled, I must admit. So I reckon I'm not a nose-to-tail person. That's more my wife's side. I'm more, I'll take the backstrap and the cutlets, and the rest can go to the dogs, which is horribly wasteful. I shouldn't be saying that, but it is what it is, and I try and cook it and don't do anywhere near as well as my wife. She does a much better job of that, that's for sure. I think a bit of a lamb stew that we do here for some of, when sort of we're having some open days and some courses, throwing a bit of lunch for people, and it's a lamb stew with an odd couple of pieces of potato in it. It's a nice sort of reverse on it.
For now, Andrew is focusing on better efficiencies on the farm to make the most of the small farm and maintain the ethics and sustainability of it too.
Well, I think just expanding what we do here, for ourselves, looking at more that sort of homesteading focus, and just putting that steps towards reducing our needs and our inputs, and poking along and just having that sustainability, and then building a community around that and helping others, fulfill that, and cross-pollinate learning and support and that sort of thing in a small localized space. Let's get our neighbours. I'm not too worried what's happening outside my circle of concern. I'm more of have my neighbours got enough to eat tonight type of thing. I think that sort of, if we do it, if we pull things back in, we're probably going to be more effective. We're doing something that's important, and it's not to belittle what others do. It's just a matter of, realistically, we need to eat every day. That's the reality of things. And I suppose being part of that system is pretty cool. It's sort of, we really do value that.
Andrew is living proof of how to focus on the local community, and it's helping to provide Bulahdelah and the surrounding areas with fresh Yeo lamb. This is The Producers, a Deep in the Weeds production. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of producers, farmers, makers and growers, the true lifeblood of the food industry. Follow us on Instagram at Producers Podcast, or email us at producerspodcast@deepintheweeds.com.au.